What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to this Monday edition of From the Bench. This is our first ever Monday edition. It's the recap, the review, the reaction edition, and obviously we're going to recap whatever happened on Saturday night in Fayetteville, Arkansas, between the Volunteers and the Razorbacks. Obviously, as most people know, it's not what we wanted. As everybody knows, it's not what we wanted. It was the ugliest game I've ever watched. It was so hard to watch. But before we get into anything, please make sure you subscribe to the channel and you like this video. If you like this video, please make sure you comment, do anything you want, talk about how you feel about the game. And also, please make sure you follow all of our social medias. The handles are right here, one of the two. And also, little side note, as you can see, I have a From the Bench t-shirt on. I made a couple for my friends, just earlier in the week, just for my buddies to have, for me to have, for some of my family to have. And I have, no joke, had it hundreds of people asking where they can buy a shirt and are interested in buying a shirt. So these are coming in the coming weeks. These will be available in the coming weeks. I will keep you guys updated with that, and when it gets closer to time on when those will be released. But again, that just is more of a testament of how great y'all have been just the first week of this show. Yeah, I really can't be more grateful for that. But let's get right into this review of whatever happened on Saturday night and who we should point, as bad as this sounds, who we should point fingers at, what we should point fingers at, what needs to get better. And I think the four things come down to this. I think it comes down to coaching. I think it comes down to receivers not getting open at all. It comes down to the offensive line. And it comes down to, whether people want to talk about it or not, the play of Nico Iamaleava. We'll start with the receivers because that's the least there is to talk about. But the receivers, man, all night just created no separation whatsoever. It was hard to watch. The DBs of Arkansas just did whatever they wanted with them. And I don't know what else to say about that. I was talking to my buddy Drew today about it, and he was just like, maybe we took for granted how good the receiver room in 2022 was. And I got to thinking about it, and I was just like, I don't think it is at all. Because if you remember, Cedric Tillman hardly ever played last year because he had that tightrope surgery, I'm pretty sure it was, and he was rarely ever available that year. So all it was Jalen Hyatt, who was the best receiver in football this year, or that year, Ramel Keaton, who we had last year and he did nothing, and Brew McCoy, who we still have. So I don't think it's that. I just think it's the play calling. I mean, again, what we really did take for granted was Alex Golish and how good he was when he was here. Obviously, now he's doing a great job over at USF. But he was a great offensive coordinator for us the years that we had Hooker. And you can tell there's a noticeable difference without him within the program. And like I said, I don't think it's that. I don't think we have the talent in the room. It's deeper. I mean, at this point, I think Squirrel is really overrated. I think for as small as he is and as fast as he is, he doesn't really make people miss. He's not really just springing himself open. And if these guys keep underperforming, it's time to give people like Mike Matthews, the true freshman who played great against Kent State, and Brandon Staley, another highly touted true freshman, some chances. Because what we saw last night isn't going to work. Again, that may change with the play calling, but what we put on display last night was not good. The offensive line was horrendous. Glenn Alerby might as well be left in Fayetteville, Arkansas. I don't know. His inability to develop offensive linemen the past few years, I think. I mean, we've had a few good ones come through, like Trey Smith, but we have not had any great offensive linemen consistently. Like Cooper Mays is good, Cade Mays was good. I mean, Jerome Carvin was all right, but I mean, his inability to develop these guys, and some of them you may need to move on from. I mean, we can't move on from anybody because the backup to John Campbell is Dane Davis, who's been here for dang near as long as he has. Well, he's been here longer, but John Campbell's in his 7th year of college football, and we'll get more into him in a minute or so, because good Lord, he was a disgrace on a football field on Saturday night. But Lance Heard, the LSU transfer, former 5-star, we're paying all this money here, was supposed to be our big addition in the transfer portal, looked like he was moving in slow motion on Saturday night. It was rough to watch. And John Campbell, you think through 7 years of college football, you'd figure out at least a little something. It looked like you know the ropes. But he had, 25, 30 yards and penalties, it seemed like, on Saturday night. I mean, it was ridiculous. And it's not just the 2 tackles that were the pointing fingers at. The whole offensive line as a collective, as a whole, was not very good. But those 2 stuck out like 2 sore thumbs. I mean, just how do we let a team who is bottom in the country in pressure rate and all the stats just absolutely dominate us all night long? I don't understand it. And that really all goes back to coaching. And I'll get into that now. The lack of preparation coming off of a bye week against a team that you should beat and a team that you're better than. On the road, an SEC game, you win this, you move on to Florida, you move on to Bama, and that's the problem. We were looking forward to, we'll get to be back on Neyland against 2 of our biggest rivals, and we heard what Sam Pittman said earlier in the week about his quarterback, about how they have confidence issues over there in Arkansas, and we just overlooked them, and we got caught slipping, and it wasn't even caught slipping because that was the worst game I've ever seen coached. It was so hard to watch. It was, in my young 17 years of watching football, that was the hardest game I've ever watched. And I can say that with confidence, that was the hardest game I've ever watched. I mean, just unreal. The play calling was abysmal. Abysmal. The throws behind the line of scrimmage, the inside zone, was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. In 2022, our defense was so bad that teams knew we were going to score so many points that they had to score 40 in order to beat us, 35 in order to beat us. And now, Josh Heupel's fallen so in love with this defense that he thinks that if he's up a score, he can just rely on that defense not to let them score. And that's not how you win games on the road in SEC play. I mean, the play call of the night was up 1 with 6 minutes left near midfield. It's 3rd and 7. And you run inside zone. What in the world is that? It's pitiful is what it is. I just don't understand it. And I keep saying I don't understand it, because I don't. It really leaves me speechless. It leaves me clueless that he was that unprepared, that he played every time Josh Heupel has gone on the road. It's like he's running coach suggestions on Madden. He just looks shook. He just loses all capability to make good play calls. I don't understand it. It is horrendous. And I go back to that 3rd and 7. Let the guy that you pay $8 million or whatever that number is, that dang near the most hyped up player that has ever come through this university, make a play. It's 3rd and 7. You can't just rely on SEC football that somebody's not going to go just score 2 points, because they were down 1. It was 14-13. It's just unreal. And that leads me to talk about the play of Nico Iamaleava. As I said all that, I saved this for last because I want to start it by saying no one did him any favors last night. He didn't. The play calling was horrible. The play calling, I was talking to my buddy Drew, and it's just like, Where I'm not even asking for a 50-yard post route down the field with all the explosive plays. Like, where did the pace go and the high-speed offense? Where did the 10-yard hitches go that were just like automatic and were free for us? Like, we ran 2 of them with Brew, and then he hurt his wrist, and we stopped. We never went back to it, and they worked both times. Like, just get the ball in your playmakers' hands, and I don't get it. But more importantly, the pace. Like, now, we only want to go fast off of a big play, and I get Danico Slaughter fakes that injury, which is horrible to see. Like, Kirk Herbstreit talked about it. It's horrible for the sport. But, I mean, Tennessee fans want to talk about how bad it is because Ole Miss started it against us. We still do it, too. I mean, it's not to slow down the other team, but if we score too fast, we have a fake injury guy on the extra points. But that's besides the point. The pace, like, 2 years ago, like, we'd throw a hitch and we'd just run up to the line of scrimmage and run it, and then run up to the line of scrimmage and throw a slant. Like, where did that pace go? I don't know. It proved to be dang near unstoppable in 2022, and we've just gotten away from it. Whatever was put on display last night looked like a Joe Milton ran offense. It looked like a carbon copy of what we watched last year. It was horrible. It was absolutely horrendous. And Nico Iamaleava, I'm not saying he's not a good football player. I'm not saying he won't be really good. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope I say this, and I hope I come back in a couple weeks after he's torn up the SEC and beat Alabama. I hope I look like an idiot. I hope everybody comes back and comments on this video and says, "Will, you're so stupid, blah, 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 blah." I've said this for 4 weeks now, and everyone's ridiculed. Obviously, I haven't said it on the show because I wasn't going to say it in the first 2 episodes, come out pretty bold. But I've said for 4 weeks that kid is not what we think he is at all. I'm not saying he's not a good football player, but I'm saying he's not top 4 in the Heisman odds. I'm saying he's not unanimous number 1 pick in next year's draft. He's not $8 million or whatever we're paying him. He's not Beats by Dre advertisement. Like, he's not that. He's a good football player, but we need him to be a game changer. We expected him to be a game changer. And right now, he is being play called and looks like a game manager. And game managers shouldn't get paid $8 million in college and be in the Heisman race. Like, he has to be the game changer. And as I said, no one did him any favors, but that's what game changers too do. Like, it doesn't matter what's going on around them. They go make plays for the team, whether you like it or not. It's so, I don't know what to say. And again, I'm not saying he's not a good football player, because there is throws that he makes. He's accurate. He's slippery. He's a dual threat. And there's throws that he makes that nobody else can make. And there's throws where he completes it, and you're just like, wow, how in the world did he make that throw? But he just is not that. Well, he's not what we think he is. He's not played like we need him to play or expected him to play. And that's a tough conversation you got to have. It raises a lot of question marks. It doesn't raise a lot of question marks because it's not like Nico Iamaleava is going to be benched. But it's just like, well, maybe he's not what we thought he was. And that's when you really start questioning yourself. But hey, I hope in a couple weeks I come back, and I hope that I look like an idiot. And maybe this game has lit a fire under this program, and we really open up the playbook and start throwing it downfield. I hope that's what happens. But now you're looking at a team that has to run the table and lose at minimum 1 game to get into the college football playoffs. We got lucky that everybody lost the same week we lost because we only dropped to number 8. Because with that being said, at number 8, you beat Alabama in 2 weeks, and another team loses, and maybe 2 teams lose, you're right back up to number 5 going into the bye week, which would really be our saving call. But again, I say that and hope that this game lights a fire under this program. But that team that I watched last night, 8-4, is very possible. You got 1 loss now. You lose to Georgia, you lose to Alabama. And you're not safe against Florida, Vanderbilt, and Kentucky anymore. You can't comfortably say, like, oh, yeah, we'll get through those. Obviously, Florida is Florida. They could have a wide receiver playing quarterback, and I'd still be scared because Tennessee versus Florida is Tennessee versus Florida. But now, like I said, you can't be like feeling safe about Kentucky. You can't be feeling safe about Vanderbilt because if the offense doesn't get figured out, like you're not going to score points. You're not going to beat teams, which I never thought I'd say with a team that Josh Heupel's coaching. But we're here now, and we're saying that. And all the stuff I'm seeing on social media where they're like, fire Josh Heupel, like go hire Alex Golesh, like that's dumb. If you remember what Josh Heupel picked this program up as to what it is now, like we were okay with 8-4, and now if we go 8-4, it's the biggest disappointment we've ever seen in our lives. Like Josh Heupel still should be the coach at the University of Tennessee. That's just dumb. But it really makes you wonder. I don't want to say this. This Saturday was one of the most disappointing games I've ever seen in my life. Like I watched the game with my buddy Luke and my buddy Zach, and you can ask them. Like I was so angry. Like the difference between like that and like South Carolina for me was like South Carolina. I was just so sad. A couple of years ago of the Hooker year, I was sad. This game, I was just angry, man. Like a team that you're better than, a team that you should beat, and the coaching just held you back, and you could never win it. It was so hard to watch. But I knew it was too good to be true. Like I wanted to get on this episode and talk about how Vanderbilt beat Alabama and how the SEC is wide open for the Vols and how we should be in the SEC championship. But no, I should have known as a longtime Tennessee fan that that's too good to be true. That's on me. I should have known better than that. I was sitting at Buffalo Wild Wings thinking about what I could talk about on today's episode. And I should have known better because that's what being a Vol fan is it's every year there's something that there's a game. It's always something. There's a game that somebody's going to lose when we shouldn't lose. Like it's so exhausting. It's so tiring, but I love Tennessee, and that's not going to change. It's never going to change that it sucks, and it's never going to change that it's hard. I almost lost all my media credential in my short career because I was ready to get on here Saturday night and just blow up. I was so mad. I came home and went straight to bed. Just so upsetting. But, we move on. We're playing a Florida team this week they're not a good football team, but they're trending up and we're trending down. So that's never good going into this game. But we'll see what happens. We'll talk more about that later in the week, Tuesday and Thursday. But again, also, like I said kind of earlier in the video, comment what you think about the game, how you feel about the game. Like I'd love to talk about some of it with you guys in the comments. I'd love to get to know what you guys think. Make sure you like the video and make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. I can't thank you guys enough for how good this show has gone for me just in the first week. All the people that have reached out. New people I've got to talk to, like it means the world to me, so thank you guys for that. But yeah, make sure you guys are followed to all the social medias. The handles are right here, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Go Vols.